With the release of the Nintendo Switch 2 system in a few days, there's been a bit of controversy, usually surrounding the price of the games and the system itself. So if you're too poor to afford the new system, or if you're looking for some sort of alternative, then you've came to the right place, because I've accumulated some software that may fill the hole in your heart. The Switch 2 has a ton of games planned for it, but we're going to be covering only a few substitutes. Everything that you see here is free and legal, and every download will be put in the description. First, one we're going to show is a potential alternative for one of Nintendo's best ideas yet, Super Mario Maker. For those who are wondering why I didn't start with the substitutes for Mario Kart World or something similar, I'll get to that later. The first game on this list is Mario Multiverse. This is a Mario Maker inspired game that's been in the works for a few years now. There's one demo, and that demo only has the level editor with Super Mario Bros. As a theme, as well as 2 example map packs that you can play on your own, which includes a remake of the original Super Mario Bros. Alongside some levels that show what the level editor can do. While the game was pretty fun, there's still some glaring issues, such as Mario moving kind of weirdly, and the fact that I saw some performance issues in the game. Issues aside, it's pretty good for what it's worth. The second game is a combination of what we're going to transition into next. Mario Zero AE, Alpha 99 Entities, is an enhancement project to Mario Zero, a Portal and Mario hybrid game. AE includes new entities for the level creation part of Mario Zero, as well as more map packs, daily challenges, and an improved download system which allows you to get map packs, skins, and more without searching as hard as you would normally. Watch me make a level. It's simply a powerful creation tools allow me to make a simple to beat level. However, not all people is a creative type, and some people just want to play levels and have fun. These next week's games should satisfy your cravings. Firstly, Snack Adventure by Smile Hero is a quick 2-level retro title that have you play as either Little Hector or Uncle Albertic as they find themselves stuck in a candy land in the middle of getting groceries. You're tasked with getting them out of there as eating as much as you can. Currently, the game is only a demo, which I admittedly found out after beating the second level, which took me maybe 15 to 20 minutes. Regardless, it's a charming little title which you can play on an actual NES, or preferably an emulator. The next game is Super Tux, which is a game where you play as Tux the Penguin, the Linux mascot, who's in search of his friend Penny after she's been kidnapped as they were on a picnic. The game plays the most like a Mario that isn't quite a Mario fan game. You can run, jump, backflip, and kind of ground pound. The power-ups are what you expect from a game like this. There's an egg that allows you to grow, a firefly which allows you to shoot fireballs and gives you a hat, and there's a star which allows you to defeat enemies. Potentially inspired by the new Super Mario Bros. Games, there's also secret areas and some levels which give you bonuses. This game also happens to have a level editor, but I haven't tried that one out yet. The last game inspired by the standard Super Mario games is Retux, which seems to be by the Diligent Circle. According to the website, it's a retake on what they felt Super Tux should have been. That's why there's some graphics and music lifted from it. However, the game has its differences. For instance, the story here involves the new Snow King taking over and imposing a new tax on fish. Tux, furious at this information, sets off to stop the madness. The gameplay in this one is also different, having new and slightly better levels as well as different game mechanics. In this one, instead of growing and shrinking like you would in a Mario game, you have 5 hearts. The fire flower is also kept in this one, but instead of Tux getting a red hat or turning red, he instead holds the flower until there's no more firepower, then he throws it. Tux also automatically runs when any direction is pressed, making this game closer to a 3D Mario title than anything. While this may be the end of the regular Mario inspired games, this isn't the end for Tux. But for now, let's head on to some quick Donkey Kong games. There isn't much to say here as it was hard to find anything that wasn't a clone of the original arcade Donkey Kong. In a world where DK has pants, that's unacceptable. I did find 2 games that have tried to replicate the gameplay of the Donkey Kong Country games, however they aren't necessarily the best. The first and the worst game is Donkey Kong Country 4 The DK Way. This game seems to have 30 levels, but I kind of got bored by the second level. It doesn't help that the fact there wasn't any music and it's hard to memorize the controls, especially due to the fact that it ran in full screen by default. There's also no music, which is kind of a bummer. It's only for what it's worth, with monkey sounds and bird ambience and all, and yeah, it's not really the best. This next game is simply called Donkey Kong Country The Trilogy by Andre Productions. At whopping 1.6 gigabytes, it's also kind of disappointing, but not as disappointing and pretty decent actually. I'm not sure if I installed it right, but lots of the menu graphics were in black, and there wasn't any music unless you cleared a stage or within the menu. However, all the sound effects work perfectly. The game has some pretty good level design and it doesn't drag for too long. However, I couldn't beat this third stage, probably because I'm bad, but at least it's better than the last game which put me to sleep at the second level. Assuming that there won't be a mainline Mario game soon, and now that we're done with Donkey Kong games, let's go to the Mario Kart inspired game. This will be the substitute for Mario Kart World, though it's not really open world, but there is a lot of levels. This game is Super Tux Kart. Yep, Tux is back, and this time he is not messing around. Despite having some jank in the visuals department, it's pretty fun to play, has great controls and nice mechanics. For instance, your vehicle can obtain nitro cans which are in blue, and by pressing the N key you can activate a boost that sends you pretty far, albeit at the cost of being able to turn easily. There's also bowling balls which can be rolled and when hit stun someone. Basketballs work similarly to the bowling balls except for the fact they bounce. There's also cupcakes, boosts, a fly swatter, and more. It also has a built-in add-on loader so you can download new characters, maps, or arenas. Let's say you don't want to play a Mario Kart clone, but a different type of racing game. Maybe something from Nintendo's former enemy, Sega. Well, Sega has announced Sonic Racing Crossroads, except we don't know when that game's coming out, so instead of waiting, you should check out these last two games. The first of these two games is SRB2 Kart by Kart Crew, a modification of Sonic Robo Blast 2 that allows you to race in go-karts Mario style, but with Sonic characters. By default, you can play as Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Dr. Eggman, and Metal Sonic, each with their own different stats. There's also a plethora of maps you can choose from. While there isn't a single-player race option like the next entry, you can do a time attack mode which functions similarly to it. However, the multiplayer side is crazier. You can join a multiplayer server and join the fun. Basically, every server I saw had add-ons loaded, which means there are custom characters, maps, and more. Like, of course I can play Mr. Krabs and blow up. Speaking of blowing up, the game has a slightly high difficulty curve, especially on custom maps. If you fail to reach a goal in a certain frame and you're in last place, boom, you explode. Well, granted you're in a multiplayer server that is. But there's a high chance the multiplayer servers might have nobody in it. Because, ever since the next game on their list had been released, lots of people have gone over to that instead of staying on Kart, and you'll see why. Our last game on this list is Dr. Robotnik's Ring Racers, also by Kart Crew. Originally meant to be an update for Kart, it ended up as an overhaul, with a new tutorial campaign, unlockables, passwords, and more. I haven't played it online yet as I don't think I'm good enough at the game to do it. However, I feel like it may be just as chaotic as Kart was. Starting the game off, you're introduced to the game with kinda fake out splash and title screen. Then it brings you to the beginning of the game, which allows you to configure your options, profile, and eventually brings you into a pretty long tutorial. You may need to rebind your controls a bit however. Alongside what was just mentioned, there's also an artistic overhaul. Everyone and everything has brand new sprites, and the new title screen is amazing. There's also new faces too, such as being able to play as Amy Rose, Mighty Z Armadillo, and Jack Frost from Megami Tensei. Interesting pick, albeit questionable. The game also has achievements in the form of challenges, which is accessible from the extras menu. Also in the extras menu, you can enable add-ons, and look through your statistics, and so much more that this video would be a lot longer than necessary. To end things off, when making a console, even if it's a pretend console, we'd need some sort of user interface to launch the games we have. Sure, you can use the computer's built-in tools, like Windows' Start menu or macOS' Launchpad, but what if there is something that was more fun to use? This is where our last two entries come into play. The first of these is a Revo launcher. Those with an Android phone who are probably 12 years old might recognize that name instantly. Revo Launcher is a launcher that is meant to resemble the Wii menu, originally being called the Wii Phone. While mostly intended for phones, it runs near flawlessly on desktop devices. If you go into the settings and enable the experimental widescreen mode, you'll have a mostly Wii-like feel. However, it's nowhere near complete, as most of the things you'll see will still be in a portrait resolution to accommodate for phones. However, there are things that make up for it, mainly in the customizability department. Revo Launcher has its own version of the Wii Shop channel called the Content Hub, in which you can get icons for the launcher or new themes. Theming Revo Launcher is one of the best things you can do with it, as it's very flexible and you can change almost about everything, from the simplest things such as some icons and all the way down to the text itself. With this in mind, let's see what's possible with themes and icons. And here's a fancy Xbox 360 NXE theme. Ooh, fancy. And here's a fancy Nintendo 3DS inspired theme. And here's an old Wii phone theme. Is that meant to be spinning that fast? I don't think that's meant to happen. Well, that was unexpected. In case you don't want something that's like the Wii, or just don't like Revo Launcher in general, or if you want to play some retro games, maybe in spite of the modern games that's releasing, then the last on our list is RetroArch. This iconic frontend is the home of the many emulation cores, allowing you to play any game from basically every system on it. But did you know that it's also just as customizable? Let me show you some of the best things you can do with it. By default, it won't look like this, but it isn't hard to make it look like this, as was currently being shown on screen. This menu layout has a lot of customizability options, such as the ability to change the font and the layout and the spacing and whatnot. For example, here is what my setup looks like. Well, doesn't that look cool? Regardless of whether or not you wanted to customize either one of these last two apps, it should be apparent that they're best for launching apps and games like the ones mentioned. And before I'd finish this, I'd like to give two honorable mentions. First being Laka, which is a gaming operating system which you can put on a number of devices. It happens to be built with RetroArch, which basically means it can turn RetroArch into an actual console. Secondly, I'd like to shout out the Multi-Kartverse, which is like a Mario and Sonic collaboration game. It's pretty fine for what it is, but it's a bit weird too, such as the fact that it plays kinda weirdly and there's some things I feel are missing, such as none of the characters being able to crouch and the jumps being a bit too floaty. There's also no power-ups, but that's fine. There's also a number of playable characters, each with their own moveset, such as Mario, Luigi, Sonic, Wario, and so on. And now it's the end of the video. Whether or not you're making levels, running through the jungle, speeding your way to victory, or customizing to your heart's content, I hope you enjoyed this video, as this took quite a bit of time to make. And if you liked this video, then consider leaving a like and subscribing and whatnot. And with all that said, peace.